Right, contained within this video are my own thoughts and my own views. I am not claiming any of them as fact, only as my thoughts. It is purely my perception of the current political landscapes, the situations where it all may lead us. We start with a question. Why has Restore Britain gained such a huge following in such a short amount of time? The answer to the question tells you everything you need to know about the state of politics and the mood of the people. It is a sorry state that is not unique to the UK, but is a global issue. But we will focus here at home, here in the UK. British politics is broken. But it did not just break when Labour stole power in 2024. The truth is, it has always been broken, and the majority of the people are just becoming more aware of the fact due to the blatant and unrelenting attacks on our country and its people, and their very way of life. All of which is not done by a foreign power, no. It is all done by our very own governments, all at the behest of a small group of psychopaths who has been manipulating and grooming humanity for a very, very long time. You may have noticed I said governments as in plural, because yes, Keir Starmer and his socialist, communist, Nazi Labour Party are by far the worst, but their tactics are not new, but rather it is ingrained in the fabric of Parliament, and in turn every UK government. At least previous governments used tact. They tried to hide their plans in fake advertising and vague messaging, as not to upset the apple cart and not cause a national revolt. Labour, on the other hand, seem to be actively pushing for said revolt, which is kind of strange because that goes against the very mission statement and the playbook of the Fabian Society, because they claim they do not want riots in the streets, but rather top-down control via the back door of subtle manipulations and the likes. But there is nothing subtle about Keir Starmer's Labour Party. You could never have a full national global societal shift without conflict. They know this, and they seem fairly confident they are ready. So before you say, okay, Ron, if that really is the case, then what makes Restore Britain any different from any other parties? And what do they offer that Reform UK does not? We will start with the answer of Reform UK, who is, in my opinion, positioned themselves and took up the role of the Pied Piper of the hunted, leading them on a road to nowhere, just distraction and time wasting. I should maybe clarify, when I use terms like hunted and captured, I am of course referring to the right who are the hunted and the left who are the captured. You see, we don't have what we have known as a traditional left-right divide. In fact, the left-right divide has always been too simplified. Political leanings and views are on a spectrum, with crossovers and nuances. They cannot be simply classified with a dumbed-down left-right divide terminology. But that's a whole other video. So, Reform are there to give the illusion, give a voice to the hunted. Yes, that's right, I said an illusion, because on the grand scale, that is all we have ever had. You don't believe we really ever had a democracy, do you? I know this sounds cliche, but the world is a stage, and it is a game we play. We are both the player and the prize. Imagine if Squid Game is their tongue-in-cheek admission to how the world works. What was the driving force to motivate participation in Squid Game? Oh yeah, debt and money, which highlighted the greed and where the people who run the games and benefited with sick self-serving gratification deemed themselves above the common folk and used them as entertainment, where the participants, or should I say victims, were willing to take others' lives or even lose their own to win. And what do they win? Simply money. Oh, and their life. So really just money, because had it have not been for the fact of debt and greed, then their life would have not needed to be won or saved in the first place. This is how the world really works. They create the current monetary system, drown you in debt, and have you hooked on useless consumption. They are the financial drug dealers, and we are all the addicts. And I'm going to use we loosely here. So, with a forceful push into debt and a massive societal shift, it becomes a game of two sides, the captured and the hunted. Now, to do this, they employ tactics like indoctrination and propaganda. They do this by leveraging the media from every direction. This has been so successful and efficient over many, many years. This is why all of the media is owned by the same handful of people, and why they hate anyone who rises to create their own media, especially with the advent of the internet, which they hate but cannot switch off because they need it to complete their plans and maintain their future. So instead of turning off the internet, they attack everybody who raises up within it on platforms such as X to counter their narrative. This is why X is their biggest target and the victim of the online safety bill. The bill in the guise of protecting children in a virtual world while actively putting them in real severe danger in the real world. All while they weaponize the police and the judiciary to punish and imprison anybody who highlights the truth, while letting the real criminals walk the streets without punishment. As an example, a rapist would get a 12-month suspended sentence, and a law-abiding citizen would get 36 months in prison for calling out the injustice in how wrong that judgment is. Let that sink in. Do not be fooled. The whole world is run by paedophiles and murderers. And ironically, they are, in my opinion, sad, pathetic, weak, low IQ, inbred, old white men. And the only power they have is the control of the monetary system. The very same system that would not exist or function without us. We pay for our own enslavement and destruction. On a side note, these same pathetic old white men are the same ones who have declared war on the white man and made the white man the enemy. Knowing all of this, they weaponize the media and governments. They first capture the weak. These are the low IQ individuals that I like the term leftard for. But what are they going to do with the majority that remains? Those who do not fall for the propaganda and lies, and those who the indoctrination has been shook loose by a sudden nonsense flip in reality. The question is, us. We are the hunted. And this is where parties like Reform play their role. It is their job to offer the illusion of fake sanctuary and change to the hunted with the end goal of making them captured. And when they have that large following and momentum, their sheep's clothing falls off and reveals the wolf that has been laid there the whole time. The one thing all of these groups seem to do is discard their disguise too early. I don't know if it's overconfidence, if it's low IQ, but they all follow the same pattern, always. Now, I'm not going to 100% say Reform is like this, but you have to look back at everything Reform, first of all, campaigned for, and how they acted in the early days, and compare that to what they campaign for now, and their current actions and rhetoric. It really is like they are two totally different parties. Speaking of different parties, this is likely because they took various questionable members from other failed parties and enveloped them into their own party. They stood as the party for the silent majority, then leaned into the uniparty mentality, echoing the exact same things the silenced majority were against in the very first place. I have never hid the fact that Reform UK were, to me, the best of a bad situation, the lesser of two evils, if you prefer. But I think even that mindset might have been wrong now. I mean, I always said that when it comes to voting, I would vote Reform for exactly the previous reasons. But I have never trusted Nigel Farage. I always said he has his price, and as soon as he gains power, he would sell out in a heartbeat. But it is starting to look like he is already sold out, which leaves me questioning, was he bought and paid for before Reform even started gaining momentum? I'll note, if a snap election was called tomorrow, Restore Britain will not be on the ballot sheet. I then have no choice but to vote reform. And I will. But that is not so bad, as now we have what I and many others have called for a very, very long time. For the seemingly only trusted man in politics, Rupert Lowe, to take Restore Britain from a movement to a full-blown political party. And on the 13th of February, he announced just that. And in just 44 days, they had accrued over 122,000 members. That is beating well-established parties like the Lib Dems and even the Conservatives. And not to mention, they are only halfway behind Reform and Labour. This right here is monumental. And I will emphasise that. And it really speaks to the public mood and perception. You see, Restore Britain are not just a party we want, but they are the party the country needs. Now, think about it. If Reform were to gain power due to a snap election, then this would be the true test, the proven ground for Reform, all the while knowing that in the meantime they have Restore Britain breathing down their necks and watching their every move, ready to take the reins at any time, and in 2029 they will do just that. To me, Rupert Lowe is the standout everyman politician. He is a hard-working farmer, a businessman. He is wealthy in his own right, who currently stands as an MP for Great Yarmouth, and this cannot be ignored, donates his entire monthly MP salary each and every month to various causes in his constituency. He is also the man who stood in Parliament and took his own time to raise funds and chair one of the darkest disturbing happenings in the UK, that being the Groom and Gang inquiry, which seen an estimated 1 million girls groomed and raped over the decades. This is the very same inquiry Labour refused to have. But Labour will ban people from the internet unless they succumb to digital surveillance and digital ID, all in the guise of protecting children, while simultaneously letting hundreds and thousands of illegal rapists who love little girls, and coincidentally from a certain part of the world, and all follow a certain religion. And when the invaders do get caught doing wrong, like raping women and children, they get no jail, they get no deportation, they are just put back on the street. Sorry, not the streets, that's for the veterans and the indigenous people. I mean the 4 or 5 star hotels or luxury apartments that we pay for. If we call out the danger and the injustice, then that's right, we go to prison. How fucked up is that? Rupert Lowe knows that there is a problem with illegals, and he certainly knows there is a problem with Parliament as a whole. Not just the government who sits at any given time. I'm talking the whole UK Parliament. It is a festering, rotting cesspool of greed, corruption and control at the behest of frail, weak, inbred, unelected, self-serving money men with a very severe God complex. This is why it never seems to matter who is in government. There are never any positive changes. It is always the same monkey in a different suit. Rupert Lowe knows that the rot is much deeper than that. He knows what the blob is and is prepared to take it on, which I have to say is not an easy task. Just ask Liz Truss. She tried to go against them and they destroyed her career and reputation, because that is what they do. And worse, Rupert Lowe has the simplest 3-word mindset that we all need to embrace. I don't care. I honestly do not believe that Restore Britain would ever betray the nation, and that is coming from me, who is admittedly a very suspicious, untrusting person. Their stance and vision of the future of this once, and I'm going to emphasise once great nation, truly fully aligned with the people. Like I stated, until Restore Britain are on the ballot sheet, Reform are the best of a bad situation. Although saying that, hold on, wait. I know this sounds absolutely ludicrous, But I have to admit, I've been watching Kemi Badenoch and I really like her approach as the opposition. Now, yes, I know they all do and say the right things as opposition, but I'm just saying a snap election would be a desperation vote with little to zero confidence in whoever I vote for. Yes, it'll be reform. But 2029? Hell yeah. Restore Britain vote cast without a second thought and near 100% confidence. And hey, if I'm wrong, they can never be worse than Labour or the other parties just sat there waiting in the wings. Good God. Imagine if the Greens get into power, the whole nation will be off their tits on smack for 24/7 while raping each other in the streets. No. There is only one way, one chance, one party. We really do have to aim high and vote low. Now, if you are not political, it is time to get political. Because like it or not, politics dictates every aspect of your life, from finance, employment, education, inflation, taxes, law, medical, immigration, everything. The time for sitting on the fence is over. Being on the fence, you're as good as captured. So I will reiterate, Restore Britain are not just the party we want, but Restore Britain are the party we need.